Hey all! So, we recently got Echoes of Deviri, which has added a lot of quality of life improvements to most of the Deviri content alongside a few things outside it. And I have been enjoying myself, I will not lie. But there's one major reason for that. Can you guess what it might be? Come on, it's pretty obvious. Verbal beration aside, yeah, the new augment for Sevagoth, Shadow Haze. This thing is so good, and I am so glad that D hasn't completely forgotten that my main exists. Now we just need to give Hydroid a bit of love, huh D? Come on, I want two good pirate men, please. Before I actually get into the specifics of the augment, I do want to quickly cover what Sevagoth's one actually does, just so we're all on the same page. Sevagoth's first ability, Reap, casts out his shadow, who flies around afflicting enemies with the Death's Harvest debuff, alongside dealing radiation damage. The debuff itself is a damage vulnerability debuff and scales with strength as expected. Unfortunately, if the enemy has higher armor, this kinda doesn't matter anymore. Even then, I rarely find any troubles with the actual debuff itself, and the ability is a very cheap way of building up Deathwell, with each enemy killed contributing 5% charge to the Deathwell. Moving over to the augment, enemies affected by Death's Harvest will now have increased critical chance when hit. The crit chance boost is the same as Kullervo's 1, being a flat add-on to your final crit chance, including conditionals. So if you have a 20% crit chance and a 150% boost, your final crit chance will be 170%. So this is a really, really good buff. Alongside the crit chance buff, any enemy killed while under the effects of Reap will spawn another shadow up to a maximum of 3. These new shadows act a bit differently to the actual cast shadow, instead seeking out enemies by themselves and going at ADS speed, rather than actually being controllable. Still, I find they do a pretty good job of searching out enemies for the most part. These newly spawned shadows deal the same damage as Reap and will also proc the 2-1 combo Sevagoth has, which is very handy for consistent DPS. You can also proc this augment with Sevagoth's shadow by activating its third ability, which is actually really cool, though there is a slight caveat to this. From what I can also see in testing, the debuff duration isn't refreshed by the new shadows. But this isn't usually too much of a problem in actual gameplay, it's more so something I noticed when in the simulacrum. When it comes to damage sources affected by this ability, it's a bit weird. The usual primary, secondary, and melee work, of course. Arc guns also work, necromancies work, and even spears? I guess? Spears of Destruction 2023 when? It probably also does affect K-drives, but I'm not that much of a masochist. The two main things I found that aren't affected by this are, of course, abilities and Shadow's Claws, which is the caveat I mentioned earlier. This confuses me. I don't know why DE made it this way, but whatever. For one single mod, this has really changed the game for Sevagoth, and as someone who mains him, I'm very happy that it opens up a new way for people to enjoy the frame, since he's a very resource-intense frame. The crit boost this mod gives encourages far more control over the shadow rather than just spamming it, which I'm quite appreciative of, if I'm being honest, since I felt there was so much potential with the controllable shadow that just was kind of missed. What's really cool as well is that with the right pacing, you could theoretically have the debuff up for the entirety of any run you're doing. Once again, theoretically, in actual practice it'd probably be a bit difficult, but still, you can keep this up for a long time. What's really cool as well is that because you have far more consistent DPS out on the field with this augment, Gloom can heal you for far more, and essentially you can out-heal any damage you take, which on Steel Path is very, very handy, unless you get one shot, in which case, tough luck? The fact Shadow can also proc this augment means that you have a far better way of supporting your team while also dealing massive amounts of damage. Overall, this augment is incredible, and I'm kind of glad it wasn't a Gloom augment because, dear lord, it would just shoot Sevagoth into further irrelevancy, and I'm not exactly here for that.